The Art of Sculpting with Philippe Farreau, Volume 1, Sculpting Children, provides a step-by-step method of construction that is easy to follow, and also a guide to catch and correct common mistakes. The modeling of each feature is shown in close-up detail, and shortcuts, valuable to both the novice and professional, are demonstrated. Volume 1 in our series is available through our company. The success of any figurative sculpture often depends on the expression and gesture. Even the most technically accurate portrait can seem weak if it lacks any emotion. The purpose of this video is to point out specific features of different expressions. Philippe will also demonstrate several exercises that are useful for developing sculpting skills, including how to recognize volumes specific to different ages, genders, and ethnic groups. From creating dynamic body gesture through positioning in the limbs or shoulders to the most minute muscle changes in the face, expression can help the sculptor connect with his viewer. In these 3 busts, Philippe portrays different emotions which are also the titles of each piece: doubt, determination, and hope. Born in the French Alps, Philippe Farreau's passion for sculpting began with wood in his early childhood. After receiving a degree in fine furniture making, he traveled extensively, constantly inspired by the cultures and local people.
There are numerous kinds of clay. This is a clay that fires in a normal kitchen oven. It will turn to a type of hard plastic. Those clay here are some type of oil-based clay. They come in different colors and different hardness, and you can use it for a long time. It will not harden or it will not shrink. This is water-based clay. This particular clay is low-firing earthenware. It fires to a cone 0.6. It doesn't shrink much at the firing. It's extremely soft. And it's very pliable. You can use it on big and small pieces. When I do a big piece or a complicated piece, I will often use the same clay that is already hardened and to make the core, to sculpt the core. Then I will cover it with the clay that is a little bit more pliable, softer, to do my finish. I also use anatomically right reference to work, so I have a better understanding of the anatomy and the bone structure or of whatever I'm working on. I have many different tools. Some are made out of wood. I make them myself. Others are made out of rubber. They're modeling tools. I also have different type of scrapers, different shapes. I use wire tools with different ends and an assortment of a whole bunch of different brushes that I use to give different type of textures and finish. I also use different type of sponges for texture. I'm starting with a sample ball of paper stuck on the top of a dowel. And attached with a little bit of masking tape. Then I adjust the height of this piece of wood here to hold the neck. I will adjust the height of the stone. I will just form a ball at the top, at the beginning. And a piece of clay on the base to hold everything. The clay is setting on the ring here, so it will prevent it from sagging as we keep adding clay. Next I will put a little bit of clay on the back of the head to start on the cranium. And some at the front to form the forehead. I'm giving the basic shape right now. As I work, I try to make sure that the profile of the forehead and the back of the head look right. Now I will add the mandible. To shape the base of the face. I like to go fast at the beginning to give me a good idea of the volume. The neck has an angle going backward a little bit, so it's a good idea to get started on this. I will be working on a teenage girl. So let's start the proportion like this, which is, this is a bit center. And I'm going to put the eye sockets a little bit on the lower part of the line to give a little bit more forehead than I would for an older person. And I will just get the eye sockets done, put a little bit of a depression, the nose, I'm trying to get the basic idea of the skull, so I don't have major problems with the bone structure as I go along. Can put the zygomatic bone just put them in a little bit. Check the profile as often as you can. I will make sure that the brow bone is shaped and that I can see it. Goes a little bit like this. It will depend on your model, of course, but you can have a good idea of what it looks like if you look at anatomy books. Here, now, I will work a little bit on the nasal bone just to get make sure that I understand the anatomy enough. Here, and then check the jaw and the profile, make sure it follows the line. When I sculpt a woman's nose, I go with the basic shape. I start with a triangle, and I try to be very symmetrical at the beginning. I will have several planes that I will try to keep. Flat on both sides like this. Here I will start and give an angle to the point of the nose, going down that way a little bit. And then the next plans will be these two. I try to be symmetrical at that point. So here we are. It's very, very angular at the beginning. One plane, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. When I'm at this point, I can start playing a little bit with the nostrils down here, just to see the volume, and maybe around here. Then I can round it off. there is a triangle here that you should put in early on. Now I will put a little bit of cheekbones and maybe a little bit of chin to get the general shape of the face. It is very important at this point to pay attention to the profile. I'll start the mouth with the upper lip. Even though it will be a smiling mouth, I will start with a straight mouth and open it later. I give the basic shape of the upper lip first. Then I work on the lower lip. The main problem I see often is the corner of the mouth needs to be pushed in quite a bit. Don't forget that the cheekbones are going back up quite a bit. They are not stopping right here. Even if you want to make them a little bit stronger at this point, they should keep going up that way. For the eyes, before I give any expression to this piece, I probably will make it really blind looking. I start with the teardrop and I draw the brow bone. Put it in the eye socket and out. A little bit more clay in the corners. Here I'm just pushing the shape of the eye inside the eye socket. Using the ball of clay and pushing just with the flat part of the tool. I'm not using the edge here. I'm just pushing this flat. Then I'm going to use what's left to do the eyelid. If the eye is too big, just push the clay up. Here I'm just giving the basic shape. Knowing that I will change the expression, I'm just positioning the eyes. Now I'm going to take some clay and add some here. At this point I'm just working a little bit more on the face to work all the volumes together. A little bit more cheeks. The clay is very soft at this point, so you can move things very easily. You can change the edge very easily by either pushing, narrowing the face, or just making it a little bit shorter. If I lower the eyebrows, it changes the proportion of the face and make it a little bit younger. A younger face will have a tendency to be softer. The curves are very, very soft. There are no harsh lines anywhere. To make sure that your profile is what you want, at this point you might want to kind of play with the alignment of the profile by slicing under the chin as high as possible and take a wedge off. Like this. You remove it. Then you move the face a little bit and see what is it you like best. If I go like this, or here, it changes a lot. All you have to do then, when you have the angle of the profile that satisfies you, Then you can just plug this in. Before I start on changing the expression, I will build the shoulders a little bit because I believe that the body language has a lot to do with the expression. So I will lower this a little bit and start building the shoulders. I don't build the shoulders all at once. I go a little bit at a time, give a chance to the clay to dry a little bit and hold better. The clay has to be pressed firmly to connect together and avoid any air pocket that might be a problem at the firing. Now I'm going to put a little bit more clay on the back to build the shoulders. It's important to look at it from the back to make sure that it's symmetrical at this point and that it's built all right. If you need to modify the back of the head a little bit to make it symmetrical, it's a good time to work on it. The primary focus of an expression is the eyes. For a smile, the tendency will be to have the lower part of the eyelid lift up a little bit and some puffiness built underneath the eye. The eyelid will be lifted a little bit. Now, an expression will work if all the features work together. So you're going to give a smile to the eyes, and you're going to work on the lips a little bit. Move the lips backward. To have an effect on the whole mouth. The philtrum here will flatten a little bit because of the pressure of the lips against the teeth. So even though you can still see it a little bit, it won't be as deep. and the lips will be stretched a little bit more. So the lower lip will start flattening a little bit. And the mouth will widen a little bit. It will also go backward. The lips will be stretched. The zygomatic muscles pull on the orbicularis oris around the mouth and stretch the mouth against the teeth. The next step probably will be the cheeks. They'll be lifted a little bit on each side. In a smile, the outermost point of the cheek will be level with the tip of the nose in most people. This will go up a teeny bit too. There is some fullness created by the smile at the corner of the nose. If you want to widen the smile, you're going to have to widen everything. Widen the smile, pull the lips up a little bit. There is a point where you can't have a smile too wide without showing the teeth. If you widen the mouth, make sure that the eyes are as smiley as the mouth. Otherwise, it will look like a fake smile. Turn the head to see the profile. In profile, it should also be smiling. It is very important from now on to work around, to not stick to one specific feature. Keep working around, move a little bit on the chin and go back to the mouth, the eyes, constantly moving around to not overdo one place without working to the other features. I'm going to add a little bit more cheekbone. The ideal is probably working from a live model. If you don't have anybody available, you can work from photographs or a still model, maybe a statue or somebody else's work, or even drawings. Every little change you make will change the expression. It's a good exercise to experiment and change things as much as you can to have a good understanding of the anatomy. This is a very handy tool I make out of broom straws. I take the straws and cut them and put an elastic around it, and then I cut the tip to get a flat surface or sometimes a different angle, and I use this tool to kind of sand the surface. It goes over the entire surface like this, and it gets rid of the big bumps. It acts like a file or sandpaper. Then I go back with a little bit of water on my thumbs and go over the surface and get rid of the scratches. When the clay gets a little bit harder, use a little bit of water on this tool and it will do the same, and it will be very, very effective. When the mouth widens during a smile, different things happen. The philtrum gets a little bit flatter. If there is any squareness on the lower lip, it kind of stretches and gets a little bit thinner. Now, if we widen the smile a little bit more, what will happen? The cheeks will go higher a little bit. It will be more defined around the corners of the mouth. And oftentimes it steps down. You're going to have this muscle round, and then it will start again here. We can make the mouth a little bit longer, going to the direction of the ears, which will be here. The corners will be a little bit deeper too. The focus of the eyes will change the whole meaning of the smile. If you want her to look up, and maybe in the corner, you will have to make the upper eyelid a little bit thinner. And by changing the position of the head, you will have a different meaning. By using a different type of bristle brush, you can refine the texture a little bit. Now I'm using a little bit of water. The mouth needs a little bit of work, and it's around the lips, and the lips themselves need to be a little bit puffier on the corners maybe. When it comes time to work on the focus of the eyes, it's very important to step back. If you're standing too close, you will have a tendency to make your sculpture cross-eyed. So it's important to step back 5-10 feet even and look at it in different lights to see if the eyes are focusing on the right spot. When you look at the piece up close, it should seem to look through you. That will prevent the piece from looking cross-eyed when you look at it from a distance. The placement of the ear should be vertically between the top of the eyebrow and the base of the nose. Horizontally, it should be behind the halfway point, a little bit more even. It's almost 2/3 toward the back. The ear has a slight angle, about a 15-degree angle. I attach the piece of clay firmly. Then I give the outside shape first. The lobe, the contour, then I remove clay around the helix, which is the outside part of the ear, all the way to the lobe. Then I remove the inside, the concha. It forms the tragus, these little bumps. Then I push the helix back inside the concha. Every ear is different, so you have to study your model very carefully. Here there is a little depression in the corner. For some people it goes up, and some people it goes down. Sometimes this is very deep, and sometimes it's not. There are people who have this part here attached, like this, all the way connecting to the tragus. And other people, this is very defined here. The ear canal is at the top of the lower part of the concha. At this point, I like to let it dry a little bit before I go further into details. When I need a particular feature to dry very fast, I use a propane torch just to dry the surface. A hair dryer works as well. I don't advise you to use a propane torch, and never ever use a propane torch on oil-based clay. This is specific to water-based clay. Once it's drier, it's easier to take the details, all these little bumps down with a brush. If you use too much water, go back to it with the hair dryer again to get it dry enough so you can smooth all the round part and the inside. I like to leave some texture to it. Here is an exercise that I encourage everybody to try. The goal is to have a sculpture done in a few minutes. Give yourself 5 minutes and do a face. Start maybe with a baby and change the age maybe to a woman, and then go to a man, or different ethnics, maybe Asian, and try to focus on the big picture. Like if I'm starting with a baby, what will make it look like a baby? The cranium is much bigger in proportion to the face, so build it up very fast. Don't worry about details. Get it to be around. The eye socket then will be a little bit lower than they would be for an older child. Little bit of nose. Like I said, don't worry about anything concerning the details, details of the features. Try to find the shape of the skull. Like here, maybe a little bit more forehead. Concentrate on looking at your work from 3/4 profile and not too much from dead on. You'll get a better understanding of the volume that way. Okay, try to find what makes the difference. Maybe, the forehead, the shape of the forehead, the cheeks, a little bit of details just on the side here to make a little bit of puffiness, the cheekbone. Nostril will be a little bit flatter than it would be for an adult. That's all you want. It's, like I said, no details. Just the general idea. And see what happens when you squeeze it, or when you move it that way or this way. What happens to it, and where does it get you by moving one feature or the other? If I go a little bit thinner, it's going to get older like this. But if I move back in, you're going to lose a little bit of age. You can put just a little bit of ears maybe, just to give it a better look and to learn how to place them to Just put it on. No details whatsoever. Okay, once you have the basic shape of what you're looking for, like a baby, don't waste your time. Keep moving on to something else that is drastically different. Like how can you make it older? If you open it, lower this spot, make the nose longer. Like this. We get the corner of the eye out a teeny bit. Like this. Now, this proportion here is going to have to be modified to work also in the base. So slice it down, make it a little bit longer, and play with the clay. Don't hesitate to move things around. Everything changes. You change a little bit of one part, you have to change everything else. Like here, I'm going to have to add the mandible. Here, I look at the profile, what's wrong with this. I'll try to figure out what I need to work on to gain some ears. And let's say now, I would like to get a specific ethnic. If I want to go to African, I will have to modify a little bit the forehead. Maybe a little bit more round at the front here. Eyes protruding a little bit more, with more of the eyelid showing. Once again, the details are not really important. It's the overlook. Here, I'm gonna widen the nose. Change the lips. Work a lot from the profile. The ears will probably have to be dropped a little bit. you can move this up to make it more feminine, or even add some flesh right here. Maybe give a little bit of life into it by opening the iris. Okay, now at this point, it's been enough time on this part, so let's go to an American Indian, see what has to be changed. Probably the forehead will have to be narrowed a little bit at the top and slope back. And of course, it's not for everybody. It's just to get a generic look. The eyes, I'm going to get them a little bit smaller and deeper. On an American Indian, probably a little bit closer to closer together. So I'm going to just squeeze them like this and give more cheekbones to. Let me open this. Get some cheekbones very high. It's going to be, let's say it's a man, so the orbicularis oris is going to get a little bit more shaped. It's a little bit more obvious on each side of the mouth. Like this, get more of a chin. And of course now the nose is going to be modified. Try to find what does it. Try to find what makes a difference between one ethnic to the other, or the age, or every little bit of trial helps. The main thing is not to get attached to any of it. When you work, you have to force yourself to change from one race to the other, or one age to the other. Now, probably the brow bone is going to be a little bit more shaped. Let's give him like a frown. Yeah, the lips. Let's try with lips that would be a little bit skinnier. And also, stick this part going down this way maybe might help a little bit. So this is the idea of this exercise. Don't get attached to anything. Move things around. It's not supposed to look very good. It's just supposed to help you find big features, principal features, focus on specific volumes, and teaches you to not be afraid of the clay. Just move it around and play. This exercise is supposed to be fun and fast. Here it is. By changing the position of the head, you can achieve a different expression. If the position of the head were a little bit lower, the whole perception of the character would be very different. In this other study, the head is tilted back. However, the head is also slanted on one side, and that gives a completely different dynamic to the head. The eyes are a little bit puffy. Just underneath, the orbicularis is contracted a little bit, shaped by the smile, and it gives the whole piece a little bit of a dreamy look. The stern expression on this piece is a combination of different features. The eyebrows being very low and looking a little bit lower than the position of the head from the eyes, and the pursed lips gives it a definite stern and almost angry look. Live models are ideal to study expressions. Get your model to stick with one expression for a little bit, and once you got it, try another expression and change your features as much as you can to study the muscles. Here, the frontalis is folded for a frown. The orbicularis oculis is contracted underneath the eye, a little bit like in a smile, in that case because he's looking up a little bit. So on this side, same thing, it will come up a little bit. In a man, the orbicularis oris around the mouth is more developed. You can see it a little bit more than in a woman. This last exercise should free you up and encourage you to experiment. So let's try on this piece to change, do a drastic change. I'm going to go to an Asian woman. So one of the things I will do is I'm going to pull the eye closer to the surface, like this, first. Here, to diminish the size of the bridge. Here, I'm going to change the brow a little bit, lower this, flatten the nose and widen the nostrils. I also let's try to change the expression to make it much more interesting. don't be afraid to experiment. That's the whole point of this exercise. I'm going to make the face a little bit shorter. I'm going to get rid of the smile. Fill it up. The cheekbones might want to be a little bit more protruding. You can see that the face is a little bit flatter, and I'm gonna slice the chin again, the jaw here, to move the bottom a little bit more. Let's see what happens to the profile. Now, I don't want to smile, so what I will do is I'm going to lower the eyelid. The upper eyelid I'm going to lower to make her look down, maybe, and the lower eyelid I will flatten like this. And I'm going to lower this. To make her look down. So the iris is going to change to I still have too much of a smile on the lower part of this face. To get rid of it, I will thicken the mouth in order not to have the stretched effect produced by the extension of the orbicularis oris. In a smile, you have three major things happening. The orbicularis oris is pulled, stretched by the zygomatic major, and the orbicularis oculis, which is the muscle around the eye, gets pushed up, contracts, and that's what creates the smile on the eye. Since it's not as stretched against the teeth, we have to build up again this spot here. Try to move around. Don't stay too long at one spot. Even if it doesn't look right, don't worry about it. Just move around. There is a little bit less of a bridge here, so you can either fill it in at that point or lower even further the bridge. I'm going to widen the nose a little bit more. Try to go fast. If you want more of a sorrowful look, you're gonna have to work mostly on the eyes. Try to find what changes the whole attitude. In that case, if you go with the eyelid a little bit lower and have her look down, you're gonna have to make it heavier here. As the eyelid covers the eyeball, it wraps around the eyeball. If you want some more drastic expression, make the eye go on one side. So I'm going to fill this in on this side. Build up. I'm going to move the eye here. And then give some body language. You're going to have to lift it from stand and maybe change the attitude, maybe. Lift the shoulder a little bit. The body language is extremely important to render the expression, to render the mood. To change the expression, we're going to try different things. Now we're going to try to get her to see what happens when I change the eyebrow. See if I can make her a little bit more sad, maybe. By lifting this corner of the eyebrow and dropping the outside corner, I achieved a little bit of what I wanted. Now, by working a little bit more on the texture, it will allow me to see more of the problems of volume. So I'm going to go back with this tool and try to smooth everything a little bit better before I go further into the features. If the clay is drying a little bit, you can use a little bit of water. And I'm going to go with the brush. The muscles of the neck are very important. The sternomastoid goes from underneath the clavicle all the way to the back of the skull. The trapezius is right here. Here I'm going to push up the shoulders and maybe forward a little bit to accentuate the attitude. For the hair, I'm going to have a very simple haircut, very short bangs in the front. Kind of rounded like this. Then split in the middle, going back. Try to follow the pattern of the hair like this at the beginning to give you the general sense where the hair is going. And maybe I'll cut it shorter here. I add layers until I reach the thickness of hair I want. Then I go back with different type of tools to trying to find the texture I want. Here I'm going to try to find the shape of the hair. Try to follow the hair the way it grows, starting from the center up here, going all the way around. Hair is a difficult thing to render. You have to spend a lot of time to try to find a texture that works for you. To accentuate the expression further, I'm going to try to modify the brow a little bit, just by putting a wrinkle right here. It may change their expression a little bit. If you put a highlight at the bottom of the iris, it has a more passive expression than if you have the highlight at the top. So I put a tiny triangle right at the bottom. Now I will try to give a little bit more texture to check the whole surface and get rid of all imperfection if I can. Blend in this muscle a little bit so it's not too obvious, and work a little bit on the lips. I like to give a ridge and then go back with the brush and smooth everything. I use a lot of water when I work with this clay. To make the eyebrow here, I will go clean my tool. You can refine further the eyelid by giving a rim around the base of the eyelid, the upper eyelid. Just and now go over the whole surface with a sponge or fabric. Different type of sponge help a lot to find different type of texture. Give a fairly strong texture, and then you can use the light to help you find imperfection. The texture is very important to find little imperfection. Put texture everywhere on the face, then change the light. Try to find a different type of light to find hollows and bumps. Here I'm going to switch my light, one of the light, to see if I can find anything wrong. By turning the head, I find that here there is a little bit of a bump that is difficult to see with both lights on. The difference is obvious if you change the light again. It disappears. Fix it simply by removing it with your fingers. When I do the hair, I spend a lot of time trying to find the right pattern and the right texture. For hair that should look shiny, I go over my texture with the scraper, then I go back several times with one of my bristle brush like this. Then at the end, I go back again and give some highlights like this to the texture to simulate the shine of the hair. Once the clay is dry enough that you can't leave a fingerprint when you push like this, but it's not bone dry, it's time to hollow out the piece. I use a wire, I slide it underneath the piece, and I go up beyond the ear on both sides. Here the paper is in there, I can feel it, but I go around. And then I use a wire tool. You have to be careful not to go through. The clay is still soft, so it's a fast job. By feeling like this, you can tell the thickness. You hollow out the piece thin enough to try to prevent any air pocket in the piece. When heated, air expands, so if you have air pockets that are too big inside the clay, the air expands into it and the piece might break. You have to try to avoid any air pocket. You can feel the thickness of the clay by feeling like this with your fingers. Here I went through this corner here inside, you can tell. So I just fix it. When you get to the point where you're on the face, be very careful not to go through. Take your time. I really want to make sure that I don't have more than 3/4 of an inch of thickness anywhere. So when I get to that point, I take a smaller loop, and I try to get where the nose is, the mouth, and the chin, cheekbones. Here I went through again. Put a little bit of water. Take some clay and fix it from the inside. Go back on the other side. Once your piece seems to be thin enough everywhere, for more insurance, if there is any other air pocket left in there, you can go through it with a fork. Of course, you don't go through, just on the surface. See, it goes about that deep. To put the two pieces together, you need to score both surfaces with a little bit of water. Now I make a ball of clay, a little ball of clay, and I make some slip. And it acts like glue between the two pieces. I apply some pressure here to make sure that the two pieces connect all the way around. I'm going all the way around, putting some pressure, make sure it's tight, and then I will put the whole thing standing up so you'll be able to see. Okay, now the next step, to make sure that the seam is perfect, I will remove some clay all the way around the head along the joint. Put a little bit of water and use some of the clay I removed from the inside, which is clay that's already hardened a little bit, and plug this. What it does, it gives a better surface of gluing, and it shouldn't crack at all during the firing. If you don't do that, there is a chance of cracking. Now it's time to fix the texture. You can work on the piece for weeks after that, as long as you keep it in a plastic bag. You can go over your seam and it will be invisible. This piece, sculpted by David Matthews, has been hollowed out, dried for about 3 weeks, and is now ready to fire to cone 05. It's put into the kiln, and it will be fired 5 hours on low, 5 hours on medium, and on high until it switches off. This is the color your piece will be coming out of the kiln. It's almost white. For this piece I used wood stains, different type of wood stains, different colors. You can see that I tried in the inside to see the color I preferred before I got on the surface of the piece. This is a patina available through stores. It's commercial patina. It's a aged copper tone. This one is also a commercial patina that looks more like a bronze. Different patina will enhance the overall expression of your piece. Experiment with commercially available and homemade patinas. This can be layered and changed as many times as you want. Learning to sculpt is a long process. You have to constantly experiment to constantly improve.
We hope that this tape has been helpful. For more in-depth demonstrations of sculpting individual features, please refer to Volume 1 in our series. Many of Philippe's tools and sculpting aids are available through our company. A schedule of his seminars at our studio and around the U.S. is available on our website. If you have questions or comments about this video or any of our other products and services, please contact us.